Good day and welcome. Today, we're continuing our exciting World War II series by exploring how Germany transformed into a dictatorship under Hitler. We'll uncover how Nazi policies, propaganda, and oppression shaped one of history's darkest periods. Here's a question for you. Do you think Hitler could have gained power without Germany's economic struggles and the failure of democracy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Why stay until the end? Well, stick around for thought-provoking questions at the end of this video to test your understanding. Challenge yourself and see how well you've grasped the material. It's a great way to boost your knowledge and confidence. Don't forget, if you enjoy history content, hit like and subscribe so you never miss our weekly uploads. Let's get started. The Enabling Act of 1933 was a crucial law that helped Hitler turn Germany into a dictatorship. It was passed by the Reichstag, German parliament, and gave Hitler and the Nazi Party complete control over the government. At the time, President Hindenburg was still the head of state, but he signed the law, allowing the Nazis to eliminate democracy. With this new law, Hitler could rule by decree, meaning he did not need approval from parliament to make laws. Although the act was supposed to last for 4 years, Hitler never gave up his power, and Germany became a one-party state under Nazi rule. Once the Nazis had full control, they made several drastic changes. In April 1933, the Nazis took over local governments, ensuring their control at every level. Non-Nazi teachers and university lecturers were fired, and only those who supported Nazi ideology were allowed to teach. The Gestapo, secret police, was created to arrest anyone suspected of opposing Hitler, and since prisons became overcrowded, the first concentration camp was set up in Dachau in 1933. The first concentration camp was created as a solution to the mass arrests of political opponents. By 1933, so many people were jailed that German prisons could no longer hold them. The Nazis established Dachau, a large barbed wire enclosure where prisoners were forced to do hard labor, military drills, and endure regular beatings. Prisoners at Dachau included anyone who disagreed with Nazi rule, including political opponents, trade unionists, and later, people from minority groups. The camp became a model for the brutal concentration camp system that the Nazis expanded across Germany and occupied Europe. The Nazis also censored newspapers and controlled the media to spread their propaganda. By July 1933, all other political parties were banned, and their leaders were either imprisoned or forced into exile. Trade unions were also banned, their leaders were arrested, and workers' pay was reduced to keep wages low for businesses. The Nazis even burned books they disapproved of, destroying any literature that challenged their beliefs. Through these actions, Hitler eliminated all opposition and built a totalitarian state, where no one could question his rule. While he worked to restore German national pride, he did so with brutality and violence, making it clear that anyone who opposed him would be silenced. His dictatorship laid the foundation for World War II and some of the darkest events in history. Ernst Röhm was the leader of the Brown Shirts, SA, the Nazi Party's paramilitary force. He played a key role in Hitler's rise to power, and the SA helped intimidate political opponents and enforce Nazi rule. Röhm wanted to spread Germany's wealth to improve the welfare of the masses, and his ideas were becoming popular. He also claimed that Hitler would not have come to power without the SA, which made Hitler see him as a threat. Hitler feared Röhm's growing power and influence, so in June 1934, during the Night of the Long Knives, Röhm and other SA leaders were executed. The killings were carried out by the SS Schutzstaffel, led by Heinrich Himmler, and the Gestapo secret police. After Röhm's death, the SA lost its power, and the SS became Hitler's main paramilitary force. His death marked the end of the SA's influence and strengthened Hitler's absolute control over Germany. The SS later took control of concentration camps, which were used to imprison, torture, and kill the Nazis' political opponents. In August 1934, President Paul von Hindenburg died, and Hitler combined the roles of Chancellor and President, declaring himself der Führer, the leader. The German army swore an oath of loyalty to Hitler, and Germany officially became a dictatorship. Hitler shut down the Reichstag, parliament, and ruled without following the German constitution. Under Nazi rule, Germany became a ruthless and violent dictatorship, where Hitler made all decisions, and opposition was not tolerated. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 led to the loss of basic rights of Jewish people in Germany. Nuremberg was one of the largest cities in Germany and a key center for the Nazi Party during the 1930s. Hitler held massive rallies there, using propaganda to convince Germans that Jews were a threat to the development of a so-called master race. At the 1935 Nuremberg rally, the Nazis introduced the Nuremberg Laws, a set of anti-Semitic laws that aimed to strip Jews of their rights. Anti-Semitism, or the hatred of Jews, had existed in Europe for centuries, and the Nazis used it to justify their discrimination. They spread propaganda through rallies, radio, newspapers, films, and posters, reinforcing negative stereotypes about Jewish people. This laid the foundation for the Holocaust, as years of Nazi brainwashing made it easier for Germans to accept policies they might have rejected earlier. After Hitler came to power, the Nazis turned their racist beliefs into official state policy, making anti-Semitism a key part of their rule. The Nuremberg Laws defined Jewish identity by ancestry. People with 4 German grandparents were classified as a German or kindred blood, while those with 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents were identified as Jewish. A person with 1 or 2 Jewish grandparents was labeled Mischling, crossbreed, or of mixed blood. Hitler was obsessed with racial purity, believing that Aryans, blue-eyed, blonde-haired Germans, were superior to all other races. He wanted to create a master race, Herrenvolk, and saw Jews as inferior and dangerous. According to Nazi ideology, this so-called superior race would rule Germany and the lands it conquered. The Nuremberg Laws stripped Jews of basic human rights. They could no longer be citizens of Germany or fly the German flag. Jews were dismissed from the civil service, banned from serving in the army, and forbidden from marrying Germans. They could not work as doctors, teachers, lawyers, judges, or journalists, and were not even allowed to perform in a symphony. Jewish books were burned, and Jews were banned from public spaces, including state hospitals, schools, and universities. Their passports were stamped with a J, and they were forced to wear a yellow Star of David to mark them as Jewish. By 1939, Jews had lost the right to own businesses, run shops, or even own pets. In total, between 1933 and 1945, over 400 laws were passed to limit Jewish rights and freedoms. Although Jews made up less than 1% of Germany's population, Hitler blamed them for all of Germany's problems and labeled them Germany's mortal enemy. On the night of the 9th of November, 1938, Kristallnacht marked the beginning of the systematic and violent persecution of Jews in Nazi Germany. While the Nuremberg Laws had already stripped Jews of many rights, not all Jewish families could afford to leave Germany. By 1938, the Nazis escalated their anti-Jewish campaign into widespread violence. On the night of the 9th of November, 1938, SS soldiers and Nazi supporters launched coordinated attacks against Jewish communities across Germany. At least 100 Jews were murdered, and 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps. More than 7,000 Jewish-owned shops and businesses were vandalized, with their glass windows shattered. Hundreds of synagogues were burned down or destroyed. This night became known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, because of the enormous amount of shattered glass that covered the streets after the destruction. Kristallnacht was organized by Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels as revenge for the assassination of a German diplomat in Paris by a Jewish teenager who was angry over the mistreatment of his parents in Germany. The Nazis used this event as an excuse to intensify their persecution of Jews, marking a turning point toward the Holocaust and the mass genocide of Jewish people during World War II. The anti-Jewish propaganda poster for the 1938 exhibition in Vienna, Austria, titled Der ewige Jude, the Eternal Jew, was designed to spread hatred and stereotypes against Jewish people. The poster depicted a Jewish man holding gold coins and a whip, reinforcing the false Nazi claim that Jews controlled money and were corrupt. Under his arm, he carried a world map with the communist hammer and sickle, suggesting that Jews were connected to communism and a global conspiracy. This propaganda was used to justify discrimination and persecution, making Germans believe that Jews were a threat to society. It played a major role in preparing the public for the harsh anti-Jewish policies that followed, including the Nuremberg Laws and the Holocaust. Nazis did not only target Jewish people, they also persecuted and murdered millions of other groups whom they considered racially or socially undesirable. Hitler and the Nazi Party wanted to create a pure Aryan race, and anyone who did not fit into this vision was seen as a threat to Nazi Germany. As a result, groups such as black people, the Roma, Gypsies, the disabled, Jehovah's Witnesses, Slavs, political opponents, and homosexuals were targeted, arrested, and killed under Nazi rule. Black people were seen as racially impure, and many were sterilized, imprisoned, or subjected to medical experiments. The Nazis also considered the Roma, Gypsies, as racially inferior and targeted them for mass executions, forced labor, and medical experiments. Around 500,000 to 1.5 million Roma people were murdered. Disabled people were also seen as a burden on society and were victims of the T for Euthanasia program, where they were forcibly sterilized, given lethal injections, or gassed. Over 250,000 disabled individuals were killed, and 400,000 were sterilized. Religious groups such as Jehovah's Witnesses were also targeted because they refused to swear loyalty to Hitler or serve in the army. Many were sent to concentration camps, where they were executed by gassing, with around 2,000 Jehovah's Witnesses killed. Political opponents, including critics of Hitler and rich Germans who opposed Nazi policies, were also imprisoned and executed. Many Catholic priests were among those persecuted, with 5,600 priests from 24 different countries being murdered. The Nazis believed that Slavs, including Czechs, Poles, and Russians, were racially impure. More than 1.5 million Polish people were used as forced labor, and over 1.9 million non-Jewish Poles were executed or sent to gas chambers. Homosexuals were also seen as undesirable because the Nazis believed their sexual orientation was a hindrance to the expansion of the German population. More than 100,000 homosexuals were arrested, with many being castrated, subjected to medical experiments, or executed. At least 15,000 homosexuals were murdered under Nazi rule. Nazi Germany was a fascist state, the opposite of democracy. In a democracy, the government serves the people, but in a fascist state, it controls everything for its own interests. Under Adolf Hitler, the Nazis had total control over citizens, media, schools, religion, the police, and the army. They used fear, terror, and propaganda to maintain power. Propaganda spread Nazi ideas through newspapers, radio, films, and education, while the Gestapo, secret police, arrested and eliminated opponents. In a fascist state, a dictator holds all power, unlike in a democracy where elected leaders and parliament govern. The Nazis banned opposition parties, while democracies allow multiple parties and free elections. In Nazi Germany, the state controlled businesses, while democracies allow private ownership. Trade unions and strikes were illegal under Hitler but permitted in democracies. There was no freedom of speech or press in Nazi Germany. Joseph Goebbels controlled all media. In contrast, democracies allow free speech and independent media. The Nazis ruled with violence and fear, using the Gestapo to spy on and punish opponents, while in democracies, the police protect citizens' rights. Education and religion were state-controlled under Hitler, whereas democracies allow independent schools and religious freedom. Nazi Germany promoted militarism, racism, and hatred of democracy, believing Germans were the master race. Jews and other minorities were persecuted. Despite losing freedoms, many Germans supported Hitler because he improved the economy. After the Great Depression, unemployment dropped from 7 million to 2 million by 1937. The Nazis provided cheap food and housing and lowered crime. Hitler also restored national pride. Public works projects, like autobahns, freeways, created jobs. He ignored the Treaty of Versailles and reintroduced conscription, preparing for war. Many Germans believed Hitler would restore Germany's strength. Although life in Nazi Germany seemed to improve, citizens lost their rights, and the country was heading toward war and destruction. That is all for today. Before we conclude, please attempt answering the following questions before the answers pop up. You can pause the video as you go. Let us meet again next time and discuss further on World War II in Europe. Be sure to check the link in the description for more. Do not forget to like and subscribe so that you do not miss our weekly updates. Otherwise, thank you for watching and keep well.